What else is there? The BBC, the NHS, lots of people have affection for these institutions, but they're not the same thing as something that emotionally binds the country together, not anymore.
The expenses scandal, of course, very badly tarnished the reputations of politicians. The government, no government's ever been particularly popular. The Church of England and the Catholic Church have been affected by these terrible abuses, sexual abuses, as has the BBC.
It's hard to think of anything else which really represents the British like the monarchy still does. If you think of her visit to Ireland in 2011, the British couldn't be reconciled with the Irish after all these years, but the monarch could be.
You've had the Suez Crisis, you've had mass new Commonwealth immigration, you've had the IRA campaign for 30 years. It's hardly been a dull moment the last 60 years. In other countries, classic example being France during the Algerian crisis, where the whole republic fell and another one took its place. Instead, through our constitution and through our head of state and the centrality of the monarchy as an institution in this country, and the Queen personifying it, we have not had those kind of severe internal disruptions.
If we can reclaim austerity from current politics, then she is an austere person. She doesn't believe in waste. She likes to reuse clothes. She likes to make sure that food isn't wasted and so forth. That's very much, I think, a wartime generation. There are lots and lots of people of that generation who feel the same way.
Show me a woman who doesn't like to put food away in Tupperware. But I think it's very touching that she lives a life so removed from normality that her idea of fun is pulling on a pair of marigolds and doing the washing up.
She does the Christmas message, I think, above all because of her father who started this. It's very much an act of fealty and memory to him. She does write these things herself. She sits down with advisors. But the problem is, of course, the way that she has set up the monarchy during her reign means that she can't say anything terribly vivid or surprising.
It's just dire. It's badly written. It's plodding. And it's delivered with a sense of duty rather than vim.
If you go into number 10, there are a few black faces there. If you go into Whitehall, there are very few black faces. If you go into Buckingham Palace, there are quite a lot of black faces. She's totally committed through the Commonwealth to multiracialism in a way which, as it were, puts her, inverted commas, to the left of many current politicians.
When the press said, "Show us you care, ma'am," after Princess Diana died, and when she was holed up in Scotland with the grandchildren, the last thing she wanted was to come down to London and demote. She did. And I probably, much against her will, she gave that piece to camera about, as a grandmother, she wanted to, make sure the boys were all right. And she sort of almost apologised to the nation.
She tried to hold that off for as long as possible. And of course, in the end, had to bend to it because she appreciates the concept of the sovereignty of the people in a way that some of her ancestors clearly didn't.
She is a fantastic role model as a queen. I don't think that mothers say to their teenage daughters, "Darling, when you grow up, I want you to be like Queen Elizabeth II," because that would be telling her daughter that she must be above all dutiful. She must stick to her vows. She must keep her trap shut. Are these the messages we want our young women to imbibe?
It's extraordinary that some people criticise the Queen for, in the words of one recent historian, being boring. The constitution of the country, ever since really Victorian times, has made it clear that the Queen can only speak through her ministers, which means that she can only put out any public pronouncement if it's been checked by the Prime Minister.
I think there's somebody of strong socially conservative views who remembers Britain during the war as our best period, who believes in duty, believes in hard work, believes in all those kinds of things, is pretty religious as well, by the way. But I think she also feels that as Queen, it's very much her job to hide her own views when she's in public. And for 60-odd years, she has hidden them relentlessly and highly successfully.
Well, I'm joined in the studio by the author Will Self, the Speaker's Chaplain, the Reverend Rose Hudson-Wilkin, and historian Amanda Foreman, whose BBC Two series The Ascent of Women continues tomorrow. Rose, first of all, you know the Queen, you've preached to the Queen.
I have met
You've
her.
stayed with her.
I have met her.
Is she the
on
same
more than
in
one
public
occasion.
as she is in private? Or the same in private, I should say, as she is in public?
I think she is an amazing woman. Really a fantastic host, very joyful, funny, and ordinary.
And ever indiscreet? I don't mean indiscreet in it, but what I mean is she off the cuff? Does she relax in private?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm not going to tell you anything, but I will tell you that she is very relaxed, very funny, and I love being in her presence, yes.
Will Self, you have written, the monarchy infantilizes the public and squats like a fat toad atop the still existent hierarchy of class in British society.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
Yes, that is. You still believe that to be true, but do you have a soft spot?
My soft spot is political, not personal. The whole kind of flummery and, I mean, the idea of kind of bowing or curtsying to anybody is inimical to me, and I would find it absurd, and I feel nothing but sorrow, actually, for people who engage in it. Not sorrow, but kind of, I'm just confused by it, as one would be as an anthropologist, by the weird rites of another tribe. But I think the monarchy's done interesting things politically during the Queen's reign. She's been very astute, especially on cultivating the army-nation concept, the idea that the sovereign is integrally involved with military power, and through her son's involvement with the armed forces and her own, she's reinforced. What she does in that role is essentially to reinforce the state's monopoly of violence, and that's very important for her.
But it may be important for her, but it's not, I think, what she would suggest her prime role. I think it's more what Rose is saying, is that, and what the film was saying, is in a sense, does she embody the monarchy herself? Is she the monarchy?
Yeah, I certainly think, and this is where I'm more perhaps pro-monarchy than people might be surprised to learn, is that I think that there is an element of kind of transcendence embodied in an institution that she does, and she's very cleverly enhanced that negative capability as well, that idea that she, whatever her opinions are, she'll never express them. And that creates a kind of centrifugal force in British political life that keeps things steady.
But do you think she's managed, I mean, slightly managed to do it with you, but you're a Republican, but do you think she's slightly won over a number of Republicans? People would say they were Republicans, but actually separate the Queen out from the institution of the monarchy.
Yes, but I think there's a real de haut en bas attitude amongst the kind of chattering class. There's basically an idea that loving the Queen's for the little people. They wave their flags and they get their little biscuit tins, and it's a great institution, but we would never be so infra-dig as to involve ourselves in that.
Amanda, I mean, having made The Ascent of Women, I mean, they're one of the most visible and one of the most recognisable women in the world. But does the fact of her gender in what she does actually matter? I mean, you heard Rachel Johnson there saying, good God, would you want that as a role model? But actually, has her gender made her very, very important?
Well, I would say that it has. That for the last 63 years, we have had a woman as a head of state, which means that at least 4 generations in this country have only had a woman as the supreme figurehead of this country. And that has completely changed an entire mindset. That is actually her greatest legacy for women.
And also what Andrew Marr was saying there about her commitment to multiracialism, that actually she's ahead of many, many politicians on this. I mean, is that your view as well?
Well, she is the head of the Commonwealth, so she has travelled to these places. She knows the reality of ordinary people from all different parts of the world, unlike many others who have perhaps never been and have never associated with people and embraced them.
But on the other hand, she does embody the class system. I mean, that she is there.
I mean, I think, bless her, you know, power is as power does, and even the kind of negative capability that the Queen possesses and her interest and involvement. I mean, I don't doubt her commitment to to multiracialism at a personal and emotional level. I don't think she's racist or anything like that, but you've got to bear in mind these are subjects she's interested in, and any monarch is interested in hanging on to her subjects.
Rose.
There's an awful lot out there.
I think we're using language in a way that it was used way back when we talk about subjects, etc.
Well, it says it on your passport. I mean, that's what you are. You're not a citizen in that sense. You're a
Yes, it says
subject.
that, but for me, that's only words. You know,
Right.
I
well,
certainly
only words.
I certainly don't see that in the way, in terms of her relationship. In terms of her, you know, the way she treats people, I don't see that.
But what she has done is, you know, is phenomenal in the sense of, you know, she has had this extraordinary reign in which there's been all the, you know, Britain's been battered and bruised and the world's been battered and bruised in many ways. But she has coped with it because she's a very singular person. Is the monarchy, as she is the embodiment of it, actually likely to continue in the same way with an heir?
One can only hope that the legacy that she has set up will be continued. And she certainly has left some very good examples about what to do, for example, in a time of crisis. She's actually been very good at her words. I don't agree with Rachel Johnson that she's kept quiet. I think that she's coined one of the greatest phrases, which is, grief is the price that we pay for love. Only a woman could say that.
Now, Rose, you have met her. I take it that you haven't been to a garden party, Will, or you may have been invited to one, no?
I haven't been invited, and I wouldn't go.
But famously, when you meet the Queen, I haven't met the Queen, but when you meet the Queen, you shouldn't ask questions, you should wait. But if you had the chance to ask her a question, what would it be, Will?
If I had the chance to ask the Queen a question, what would it be? I don't think I'd ask her anything momentous. I don't think I'd be likely to get a momentous reply. Contra what you say, I don't think only a woman could come up with that kind of phrase making. I think it's faintly insulting.
No, only a woman could have said it at that point.
Well,
Not any woman could make it up.
If you had the chance to ask her a question, though, what would it be, Amanda?
I would ask her, I'd like to know, what does she think was her greatest achievement?
And apparently she keeps a diary, but I don't think any of us will ever be seeing that diary. And Rose, you do presumably ask her questions. Does she like that kind of cut and thrust? Does she like to be asked things?
She's exceptionally knowledgeable. You know, it is amazing that she genuinely, she reads, she is a wealth of knowledge. And so I think she really enjoys engaging with people. I really think so.
Thank you all very much indeed.